All right, welcome everyone to the City Council meeting for Monday, May 10th of 2021. We could have a roll call, Madam Clerk, to establish quorum.
Melissa Green,
Here.
Harry Meyer,
Present.
Laura Jo Smoley,
Present.
Terry McClung,
I'm here.
Autumn Slane,
Here.
Bill Ott.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All.
All right, get a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have two items on here that I'd like to add. After the resolution for the water line for the wastewater treatment plant, I'd like to have a resolution for the use of INI funds, and also a resolution affirming transgender. Does anybody else have anything?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the last item?
A resolution affirming the transgender for inclusion of everyone in the city.
Yeah.
Anybody else? All right, all those in favor of the agenda as amended, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Get a motion to approve the minutes for
Motion to
April
ap-
26th.
Motion to approve the minutes, April 26, 2021.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any changes, additions, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we do have a couple of vacancies in the Planning Commission. We have two vacancies, position 4 and position 7. So anybody out in TV land that would like to apply, please let me know. We have applications at City Hall and online. So also, we have two positions on the hospital and one position on the parks. So if you're interested in the Planning Commission or the hospital or the parks, just let us know. We can always use this. We always need the volunteers. All these commissions are important, and they can't work without citizens' involvement. Brings us to public comments. All right, seeing none. That brings us up into new business. We have a report from the Hospital Commission. I believe Dr. Burden is here. You want to give us a summary?
Yes, I'll just give you a little update. I know it's been a little while.
You might want to speak a little bit.
Okay. Can you hear me better this way?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Berry, for inviting me to speak in front of the council this evening at the beginning of Hospital Week. As chair of the Hospital Commission, I relish the chance to update the council on the good, the bad, and the ugly of the hospital. First off, I'd like to point out how fortunate we are in this community to have a hospital. According to Cecil G. Shep Center for Health Services Research, 171 hospitals have shut down over the past 15 years. 63 of those hospitals were critical access hospitals like our own. Eureka Springs Hospital has treated approximately 455 patients in the hospital, including several COVID patients, since the Hospital Commission has taken ownership. In that same period, the emergency room has had approximately 3,363 visits. We provided 2,390 vaccinations for COVID-19 at no cost to the patient. The hospital also provides employment to 50 full-time employees and 30 part-time employees. As you know, the Eureka Springs Hospital Commission took over control of the hospital February 1st, 2020. The first year was unprecedented, given the presence of the pandemic of the COVID-19 virus. The hospital was prepared for the worst. We bought ventilators, we set up COVID-19 rooms, we stocked up on appropriate PPE for all staff, we set up a tent to test people for COVID-19 outside of the hospital, and we performed 963 COVID-19 tests, 74 of which were positive. Hopefully you can see how critical our hospital is to our community And now I would like to turn to the status of the hospital, and I would like to give you a rather frank assessment of the hospital, as the citizens have more control over the fate of this hospital than they, I won't say ever, but have in many, many years. I will categorize these into the good, the bad, and the ugly. So first, we're going to cover the good. We are serving the community and its citizens with trauma in the emergency room, and we have seen, as mentioned before, 3,363 patients. Our patient satisfaction surveys are consistently positive over 90% of the time, and in fact, I just got this week's today, and it was 100% positive. We have developed programs in trauma that serve not only the residents of Eureka Springs, but the many motorcycle and mountain biking accidents that we do have. As mentioned, we have delivered over 2,000 vaccines, and just this afternoon, the FDA has approved vaccination for those 12 and up. So starting Wednesday, the hospital will start vaccinating citizens 12 and up. Under the guidance of Dr. Didoni, we have established one of the only drug detoxification centers in the area, and that's quite a wide-reaching area. We have one of the most advanced CT scanners in the area. We've also expanded our ultrasound services recently at the hospital. And we also continue to have and improve upon our stroke response program so that we can handle stroke in a much quicker manner and save lives and disability. We have a growing specialty clinic that includes dermatology, pain management, urology, and hopefully soon we may have cardiology. We partner with Elite Home Health, one of the very few providers left in this area to provide home health services. We provide physical therapy services to the community. The hospital has begun the arduous task of rebuilding and repairing our crumbling infrastructure, which I'll talk about later. Construction is now underway to rebuild the ramp that's used for helicopter emergency use in the rear of the building. In the last year, we have completed a new lab with a host of new lab equipment. And in the past couple of years, the Commission has revitalized the 25 Norris property, putting it to almost constant and critical use as both a vaccine clinic and a specialty clinic. Now I'm going to go over a little bit of the bad, which is not insurmountable, but at the same time, we have some problems. It's one of the reasons that the Commission decided to take over ownership of the hospital. First off, we've acquired an accounting system that under the prior management, no one was in the hospital was really adequately trained, therefore putting us in a very difficult situation. Obtaining reports from this system has proven difficult, which has made general accounting difficult. Currently, the hospital is hiring an expert in this system to retrieve and organize our data in a usable form. We're also in contract negotiations with Bill Couch to assume the role of virtual CFO. Couch has done the cost report for the hospital for many, many years, even before Allegiance. He has years of experience with multiple critical access hospitals. In fact, he started his career off working for Medicare, evaluating cost reports for critical access hospitals. We are still losing money on a cash basis, which is all that we can really work on right now, is a cash basis, at a level that we're currently not quite comfortable with, although it's improving, at least on a cash basis. As a reminder, I know it's been spoken the last time when Dr. House spoke, the Critical Access Program functions on a cost-based system that applies just to Medicare and Medicaid. Therefore, we're never allowed to make more than 1% in any given year. And also on a month-to-month basis, like the financials that I handed to all the council members, that's month-to-month, but you have to remember that Medicare then gives us one lump sum at the end of the year to make up all those costs. So even though you may look at those financials thinking, oh, you're losing money every single month, yes, but a lot of that is made up, if not all of that is made up at the end of the year in one lump sum. So it's a little bit misleading when you try to apply the logic of a usual business to a cost-based hospital. We didn't receive our cost-based reimbursement last year because it was our first year of ownership. That is estimated to be around $1 million, and we should receive our cost report money for the next year about the same time as the first year. So we expect to be getting 2 cost reports in the December to January area. And so also another topic on the bad is that many of our citizens who have Medicare are switching from traditional Medicare to the Medicare Advantage programs. This cost-based reimbursement doesn't really apply to those Advantage programs, and those Advantage programs reimburse the hospital much less. So we're seeing significant declines in that regard. So I just want to remind everybody, if you have Medicare, before you switch to Advantage, please think about the hospital, because in the end, it could really affect the long-term survivability of the hospital if, say, everyone switched from traditional Medicare to Medicare Advantage. Like many other hospitals in the country, as well as especially in this state, we are having some vaccine hesitancy amongst the staff, but we are working on that through education currently. Now let's go to the ugly. The number one complaint that we get from patients and the community is the structure of the hospital itself. In other words, the aesthetic of the hospital. It's an old building. The original hospital was built in 1929. That structure has now nearly reached the end of its life. The hospital has been under control of administration after administration, and it seems that in the past, each administration has kind of handed the repairs and maintenance to the next administration. But now we're almost to the end of that, and we're going to have to start doing some repairs. We began with the ramp simply because the ramp was literally crumbling. We have many other significant structural issues that we are going to have to address within the next year or two. All of this is just on the posterior portion of the hospital, and actually a lot of our complaints come from the 1970s area of the hospital, which is the front part of the hospital. But given the money that we have now, I mean, we have to do what has to be done first, and then we will get to that eventually, given enough money. Commission would be glad to speed up the process of improving or replacing the hospital structure, but it will take money. And currently, we're just in a situation that's not possible to do everything all at once. So we'll keep continuing to do this little by little. And that is the major report that I have. There are several other areas that I can expound upon if council members would like me to, so I'll just open myself up to questions or any concerns that anyone has at this time.
Council? Ms. Green?
On the first page of profit and loss, what is ER hospitalist special services?
Is just to replace the 1929 portion of the hospital on the same footprint. I understand from the HDC that we would need to keep the front facade, but then we could build a building on there. Rough estimations of that may be $1.6 to $2 million, which when we get the 2 cost reports may be possible. So that's one idea that we've had. But as far as going out and finding benefactors or grants specifically for that, we have not done a lot on that yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Smoley?
I have 2 questions. On page 3, I have the suspicion that those lines were originally in color.
Yeah, they
So
probably
it makes it hard. If you
I'm
could just
sorry.
tell us the top, middle, and bottom lines, whether they're receipts, disbursements, or cash flow.
And I printed out 8 of those, so I don't have one of them.
Oh, okay.
So I'm trying to remember. I think the top line is gross, yeah. Okay, so so the bottom line's the cash flow, and then the middle line is the receipts,
Thank you.
and top line disbursements. Yeah.
Okay. And I have one other question on the next page, page 5. What
Okay.
is a lockbox account?
A lockbox account, that is the main account that the hospital uses to conduct its business.
Okay.
It's where the Medicare, the money comes in and goes out. And so when the lockbox runs out, then we have to take it from the other accounts to put some more back in there.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. McClung?
At the rate for the first 3 months, you're going to be around if it continues in that level of loss, you're going to be about $1.4 million, $1.5 million short.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, based on P&L statement, the first 3 months, you're 300.
Yeah, okay, yeah, about 1.3, yeah,
Yeah, so
Yep,
you're
yep.
gonna, be in that range.
right.
But you say the feds give money to cover that? I didn't quite understand.
Not entirely. Like this, last year's cost report, we expect to be around $1 million. So you are correct in saying or suggesting that we would still be $300,000 to $400,000 short, kind of based on that very rough estimation. That is correct.
So-
And that's why I say we're not comfortable with that level. Because of the accounting software that I mentioned, I mean, I can't tell you what a big problem this is.
Well, we had that problem at the city too, so.
Okay, this is a huge problem. I think if we can just fix that problem, these reimbursements are going to go up tremendously, because frankly, right now, we're having difficulty even finding out who is reimbursing us what. And therefore, it's really hard to go to a payer and renegotiate a contract when you're not even for sure where you're coming from to negotiate.
Sure.
You know, and so once we get that fixed, I think we can easily make up the 300,000 or 400,000. I don't know that for sure because I don't know the numbers, but that's my guess. If we can't do that, then, you know, of course, we would have to have some sort of cuts in order to make that up, or some outside funding, you know, of some other sort. But yeah,
So as the way things look financially right now, 3 to 5 years is the lifespan of the hospital, unless
sure, yes.
things happen.
If that long, yes,
Yeah, if that long.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, things can't just run the way that they're running
Right.
now. Yeah, there won't be a hospital.
Well, I just want everybody to understand that that's how critical it is. You know,
Yes.
It's a tightrope.
I'm glad you made that point. Everything's not just, I'm not here to say everything's roses and we're going to have the hospital forever. Having a critical hospital in a town of a little over 2,000 people is a fight.
Yes.
And we in no way are planning on asking y'all for any kind of tax or anything like that. But most small towns have a tax for their hospital, and that's how they survive. We are fortunate enough to be in a tourist community where there are a lot of tourists who come to the hospital and help supplement our income. If it weren't for that, we'd have to ask y'all for a tax. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You know, but right now, we're good. You know, we're not asking for that. We have no plans to ask for that in the near future. But, you know, ultimately, that's what towns do when the hospital gets on the ropes.
I just want to wish you the best of luck, and I hope it can pull it all off. I really do.
Yeah,
I'd like
there's a lot of really good things about the hospital. When I first joined the commission, I was really surprised at how much revenue did come in, especially considering the past administrations, although I won't get into that very far. But yeah, there's some good opportunities there. But they're not done by any stretch of the imagination.
Got a long stretch.
Right, exactly.
Ms. Slane?
I just had a few questions about what is in your budget for repairs for this, or is there any in the budget?
Yeah, so we are working on budgets, and that is one of our biggest priority, but without the accounting software, once again, knowing where everything has been going, and we don't have a lot of the data from Allegiance. COVID kind of changed our entire first year. We haven't been able to really establish that kind of budget. You know, just roughly, we're working off like trying to put 15 to 20,000 a month towards it.
Okay.
But when Bill Couch, the CFO and cost report expert, gets on our staff, I'm hoping that he will be able to answer a lot of those questions of how we can put more money towards repair and maintenance and still fall under the and still be able to count it as cost, on the cost report. I don't know that myself, but I know that there's ways that it can be covered, at least the portion that the Medicare and straight Medicaid patients use. So we'll be working on that in the future. I don't have a great answer for you right now.
What is the new accounting program that you're going to use?
Well, we're trying to use this accounting program. We almost have to, because so much of our data is in that accounting program. We have to get it all out, right? I mean, and so after we get that fixed, then I don't know that we'll necessarily switch or not. It's been a discussion, but we haven't made that decision, because once we go through all the work that has to be done anyway, then maybe we'll just stick with it. I'm not for sure about that.
Right. I have one more question.
Sure.
What are you doing to combat the Medicare Advantage program? I know we have a lot of retirees. I mean, it's
Yeah.
only going to get worse, surely.
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. And we, Catherine, our marketing person, goes out there and tries to educate people about that issue. I think, I've seen that in my own practice, it's a great deal for the individual. It's a great deal if you never get sick, and maybe a little lesser deal if you do get sick, but nobody thinks they're going to get sick, and so it's much cheaper, and you don't have to pay the $200 to $300 a month in supplements, so it's hard to convince people not to switch to Advantage. I really personally think long-term, we just have to get used to the fact that people are going to switch to Advantage. I hope they don't do it too quickly, so that we can get competitive working with the Advantage programs, and once we get our accounting software and we know where we're at, and we can go out and negotiate those Advantage contracts better, that we will be able to compete. Because I think the future of rural hospitals is being able to compete with Medicare Advantage.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. McClung?
Yeah, one other question. This is an administrator that you're hiring, okay. And that may be the one I read about in the paper, I can't recall.
The most recent article, yes.
Yeah, okay. And then, but are we going to be his only obligation, or is he obligated?
We will be one of two.
One of two.
Yes, he's also CFO at McGee. And he said that he would give us all the time that we needed. We would get the majority of his time up front, and then eventually it will be split 50-50, which honestly is about exactly what we need. Because once we get everything settled, we're not a large enough operation to really justify a full-time CFO.
Right.
But in the current situation that we're in, we need a couple of them, and so I think this will be a good balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Anyone else? Mr. Meyer?
Thanks, Ty. I understand a whole lot more about our hospital now. You've been very informative.
Thank you.
Anyone?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes?
just a question. Do you feel like our community knows a lot about our local hospital and what it offers and stuff?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I think our community feels like they know a lot about the hospital, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people have had very bad experiences at the hospital in the past, and it's going to take a long time for us to win that trust back. So a lot of people that I talk to don't even want to hear about the hospital. Some of my patients don't want to go there if I even order tests. And so it's really hard to educate people on what's happening at the hospital, and it's a new hospital, but I would like for everybody to really understand that this is our hospital now. You can't just blame the guys from Louisiana or the guys from Oklahoma, or, this is our hospital. And so if you have a problem with going to the hospital, come to the commission. We have a public comment every month, and tell us what's wrong, make the hospital better. This is not the same hospital that was.
Have you, this is kind of my background, but have you thought about working with the local newspapers and the local radio station to kind of work up a time or an article a week or once a month or something on a hospital update, just so what you've got good to tell is being told and at least getting out there. Whether someone reads it or not, that's up to them. But at least an effort to get some of the good stuff you told us and some of your needs and desires and that kind of stuff to the local papers and an interview ever so often on the local radio station to get that word out. Because I've kind of felt around the community that there's not a real good understanding of what our little hospital has and what it offers and what it can do.
Right.
So it just may be an educational process that needs to at least get started as you go along, so the local folks will know.
I think you're exactly right, yeah. And as we make those improvements, we need to get those out there.
Yeah.
I agree. I think on the commission, we kind of want to get everything right and straight and make sure we're not having a lot of complaints and that the system works very well, because we're a little bit afraid that if we sell it too hard at the beginning and people have bad experiences,
Yeah.
then we've lost them for good. So we are doing a little bit of that slowly, but I think you're right. We need to do more and more of that in the future.
You may not be ready to go to the prom yet, but you can let the local media know that you're getting your gown and shoes and all that stuff ready. So.
Exactly. That's exactly where we're at. Yeah.
All right, anybody else? Dr. Burden, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate hearing the good and the bad and the ugly. And I know we've got both papers here, so I'm sure we'll get some press out of this also, being able to report on it. So, again, thank you very much for everything that you're doing.
And thank all of you for everything that y'all are doing.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us up to our next business. If I can get a motion to discuss or read the resolution for the water line for the wastewater treatment plant.
Make a motion
Second.
What's your motion?
to discuss.
Beg your pardon?
Motion to discuss.
Okay. And I'm sorry, who made the second?
I did.
All right, Ms. Green made the second. We had opened up bids last week for the water line for the wastewater treatment plant. We had 2 bids come in. We had, one bid was in your packet from Ellie Davis for, if you took the total bid of $336,800, and then Kirk Construction from Green Forest was $286,357, minus the deductive alternates for both of those. Kirk Excavation came in at the low price of $272,627. So this resolution is authorizing us to accept the recommendation from McClellan Engineers as a low bidder on the water line replacement. Basically goes from around the train station to the wastewater treatment plant. So, any questions?
I would move to accept the resolution as presented.
You want to read the resolution,
Please.
sign the number and read for acceptance?
Yes, sir.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion?
Well, I have
All right.
I have some questions about this. Is that
Sure.
okay? Okay. So on this third page, it has negative numbers of quantity. I don't understand what that means in a quote.
Where are you reading?
On this last page with the totals, it has negative 1,500 for a water main, negative 80 for restrained joint water main. Does that mean removing it, or what is that? Why is it taking it out of the quote?
Those are unit prices. Yeah, that's from, I think what you're looking at is the unit price for Mr. Davis's project. Basically, the thing for these bids, look at the bottom line. Those are itemized unit prices for construction.
Well,
So-
and I've also looked up who these people are. This Ellie Davis,
Uh-huh.
they're not even in good standing with the Better Business Bureau.
Well, we didn't take their bid anyway.
Well, but why would you even consider them?
Well, we have to accept their bids. They put in a bid.
I would want to see a third one if I found out
We
that they were not.
advertised, and these were the only two people that submitted a
Understood.
bid. At this point in time, it's real difficult to even get people are so busy with construction, it's difficult to even get contractors to bid a project. So we felt good just to be able to get Kirk Excavation to submit a price. The engineers are the ones who submitted this. I don't believe we have an engineer here for this. But these were the two that submitted the bids. And so if by chance Davis Construction was the low bidder, we could throw him out because of that.
Okay.
However, since he wasn't the low bidder, it really is irrelevant. But we did advertise, and we advertised for, I don't know, I think our Public Works manager is here. Did we advertise for 2 weeks? Do you remember? Dwayne? Come up here, we can't.
Yeah, it had to run 2 consecutive. We ran it on Sundays in the Democrat Gazette.
Yeah, for 2 times.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yes, and like you said, only had two people bid on it,
And then we had to submit this to the state and also to Northwest Arkansas Economic Development, who awarded the grant for their review too.
Okay.
yeah, and materials, have spiked the last few months, have really spiked everything, especially on the PVC. The resin is through the roof, so unfortunately, it looks like by this fall that it's going to increase even more. We're looking at maybe a 30% increase on materials by this fall, so unfortunately, if we could have got this rolling a year and a half ago, but we were able to get that in place.
And if I'm not mistaken, these prices are really only good for 2 weeks to begin with.
Yes.
Normally, they're good for 30 days.
Wow.
Mr. Myers?
Dwayne, is that, are we doing that whole water line down to the sewer plant, or?
Yes, we'll have to, of course, that process has to make a road bore. We'll have to come across because of the larger line's over on the west side, so we'll have to bore over and bring it down, and this will include, fire protection.
Uh-huh, okay.
Mr. McClung?
What's the projected completion date?
Well, it'd be 90 days once we get a contract signed. We're going to try to have it within 90 days max, we even counting weather, hopefully.
Okay.
Ms. Lane?
Where is this going? Kind of on piggybacking Harry's question, I don't know where this is.
Well, it's right on the north end of town, so
Okay.
it's, we have there's a strip the city tuck into a property that runs to the plant, so we'll cross just before the train depot, and then we'll run due north to the wastewater plant.
Okay.
And this is going to give us quite a bit of savings on utilities. I mean, first, the water loss will be cut, and then, of course, pressing and stuff, we'll cut the electricity down. We'll be much more efficient down there.
How much are you expecting it to cut it?
Well, we're
hoping.
a lot of the utilities, we're looking at, maybe a 25% right off the bat. So,
Okay.
it's going to pay for itself. And of course, we've only got the $200,000 grant, unfortunately, but our portion will be paid back in 3 years, we're hoping, so.
Is that
think
coming
both-
out of your budget?
Go ahead.
Sorry. Is that coming out of your city budget or your
Well-
Public Works budget?
Well, what we're presenting to hope to use some of the I&I money, which is for projects to save money. The I&I, we can't use it for equipment or wages or anything, but so we have to use that to be able to offset some savings on our regular budget, so we can increase those items.
Okay. Thank you.
Like it says, infrastructure.
I'm not sure. I know we got 3 new council members. I think Mr. Meyer was here, but one of our biggest water losses is to the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
And we are the largest water user in the city. So I'm not sure how much our water bill is, but it's,
You don't want to know.
I write a check every month for it, and I think I just kind of overlook it. But, so we're hoping, we've also got one of the largest leaks, and the problem is we've never been able to locate those leaks, but we know it's in between that line
Oh, okay.
on there.
That's good news.
So this line is needed, and it, as Mr. Allen said, it's going to end up saving us some money because of stopping the leaks. So, any further discussion?
I'm glad we're getting it done.
So am I. It's been a long time coming.
Indeed.
All right, if there's no further discussion, we got a motion and a second to read this resolution, sign the number, and read it for approval.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Is that me?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Couldn't hear.
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Molay?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
6-0. The resolution number 795, a resolution to authorize the mayor to accept the recommendation of McClellan Engineers to accept Kirk's Excavation as low bidder on certain water line replacements. Whereas the City Council of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, being aware of the need to replace certain water lines within the city, and whereas the City of Eureka Springs solicited bids which were opened and tabulated by McClellan Engineers, and whereas McClellan Engineers has determined Kirk's Excavation is the lowest competent bidder and has recommended acceptance of the bid. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, that the City Council does award the bid to Kirk's Excavation in the amount of $272,627 per the attached letter from McClellan Engineers, and furthermore, the mayor is hereby authorized to execute any documents necessary to complete the awarding of said bid.
All right, thank you, guys. All right, the next business is going along with this resolution is the, if I can get a motion to discuss the use of the I&I funds.
So move.
Second.
Mr. Otten made a motion and Ms. Smoley seconded. This resolution is to allow us to use the I&I funds for the partial financing with Kirk's Excavation. We have the grant funds approximately $200,000, so we'll be using the balance of $272,000, the balance, which would be approximately $72,627 from I&I, of which 50% would be coming from the water portion of I&I and 50% from the sewer to complete this project. And the I&I funds, this is what the setup was set up for. So any discussion and comments?
No.
Mr. Meyer?
I make a motion that we assign this resolution to a number and read it for passage.
Second.
Mr. Meyer made the motion and Mr. Green second. Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Yes.
Ms. Molay?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
The resolution number is 796, a resolution authorizing the use of infrastructure and improvement funds to partially finance contract with Kirk's Excavation. Whereas the City Council of Eureka Springs has accepted the bid of Kirk's Excavation to make certain improvements to the water system, and whereas the bid price accepted is $272,627, and the grant funds available are limited to $200,000. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, that the shortfall of $72,627 between the bid price and the grant funds available shall be made up in equal parts from the available sewer infrastructure and improvement fund and water infrastructure and improvement fund.
All right, thank you, guys. Our next item, if I can get a motion to discuss the resolution to affirm the city.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
All right, we got a motion to discuss. This is a resolution, we noticed, and if you recently saw, the city of Fayetteville came up with a similar resolution to basically confirming their commitment for diversity and inclusion of our transgender citizens in the city of Eureka Springs. And this is just reaffirmation of this to go along with our ordinance 2223 that we passed back in 2015.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to give it a number and read it if I'm making this motion correctly. I so move.
I will second that.
All right, Mr. Ott made a motion, Ms. Green seconded. Any further discussion? Mr. McClung?
I hope we don't make it a habit of having to reaffirm every ordinance we've got. I've never had this happen before.
Well,
Kind of out of ordinary.
this is not really affirming our ordinance 2223. It's more of affirming the acts that had recently happened within the state legislature. So, we got a motion and a second. None further discussion? Hearing none?
Ms. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. McClung?
Yes?
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Mullay?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
6-0. The resolution number is 797. A resolution to affirm the City of Eureka Springs' commitment to diversity, inclusion, and protection of our transgender citizens, residents, and visitors. Whereas on February 9th, 2015, Eureka Springs City Council passed ordinance number 2223 and requested our citizens to vote to enact Chapter 7.65 Civil Rights Administration to protect the civil rights of Eureka Springs residents and visitors. And whereas the express purpose of Civil Rights Administration is to, quote, protect and safeguard the right and opportunity of all persons to be free from discrimination based on real or perceived race, ethnicity, national origin, age, gender, gender identity, gender expression, familial status, marital status, socioeconomic background, religion, sexual orientation, disability, and veteran status, end quote. And whereas on May 12, 2015, the citizens of Eureka Springs voted to approve and enact Chapter 7.65 Civil Rights Administration as defined in ordinance number 2223, which states in part, quote, to promote the public health and welfare of all persons who live or work in the city of Eureka Springs, and to ensure that all persons within the city have equal access to employment, housing, and public accommodations, end quote. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, Section 1, that the City Council of Eureka Springs, Arkansas hereby affirms the City of Eureka Springs' commitment to diversity and inclusion for all persons, including our transgender neighbors and visitors. Section 2, that the City Council of Eureka Springs, Arkansas hereby affirms our commitment to do everything in our power to honor and protect all persons regardless of the gender identity, so that everyone will feel welcome and safe in Eureka Springs.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. That brings us to agenda setting.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Ms. Smoley?
I believe that will be the last council meeting at which Glenna Booth will be employed by the city. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what?
That'll be Glenna.
Oh,
I'd like to find out what we can do to honor her at the meeting. Acknowledge all her work for the city.
okay, I'm sorry, what are you wanting to do?
Well, I don't know exactly what we can do, but, you know, that they're,
There is going to be a function here at the auditorium for her.
okay.
So I'm not sure what the date or the time is, but I know there's going to be one set up here at the auditorium to recognize her service to the city,
Okay,
not only the Planning Commission, but for the Historic District Commission.
great, thank you.
Okay.
So there'll be a special booth set up for her then?
R.
All right. Do we have anything, Mr. Myers?
I'd like to add the discussion of the speed limits on high-traffic city streets. The ones that have excessive traffic and excessive speeding.
Speed limits and perhaps also means of reducing speed. Physical, bumps.
The whole,
Just a moment, one at a time, please. Okay, Mr. Meyer?
well, how we will deal with those speeds and the excess traffic. Yes, all of that.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, brings us council comments. Mr. McClung, I'll start with your end this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad that the energy used to be Arkansas Western Gas Energy now and they replaced the gas lines and most of that's complete in town. I think they're getting pretty near done with it, but I've noticed there are some drives and streets where they've gone in and where they were ditched and not bored, that the relay of pavement and such, the filling of those has sunken in, and I don't know if it's the contractor's responsibility to come back and hit those, but some of them are getting, it can be pretty jarring. And I just wanted to mention that, so maybe Dwayne could be looking into it and addressing it, or whoever has to contact Barrows or whoever.
That's part of our speed control.
Pardon me?
It's part of our speed control.
Cheap speed bumps.
Go
ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, it works, at least getting off to them. I don't know what happens after that, but.
All right, we'll check into it. Go ahead, thank you. Anything else?
For me?
For you, yeah, any other comments?
I think you could tell that I was through.
Thank you, Mr. McClung.
You're welcome, Mayor.
Mr. Meyer?
No more comments.
Ms. Lane?
I have a few things. I am excited to hear about the hospital's facelift. That's nice. I know that it will be a challenge getting over everybody's ideals, but it can be done. It can totally be done. I'm super excited. As far as the infrastructure that we passed tonight, I really wish we would have gotten these a little bit sooner in our packet. I would have liked to done a little bit research on my own. Along with that, I think that just improves transparency, and it can help all of us while making decisions. I think we also need to do that to create guidelines for our other commissions, because if we're not doing it, they won't do it. That's all for today.
Ms. Green?
Just thank you for bringing that resolution 797. I appreciate that.
Ms. Smoley?
I've seen a lot of gardening and yard cleanup, much more than other years. I know that since we're all home and looking at our houses and our gardens, we're really prompted, but overall it's really improved the atmosphere of the city, both for visitors and for residents. It's really looking lovely.
Mr. Ott?
I don't know if I speak for all the council members on this or not, but I'm just speaking for me personally. When I have constituents call me with a concern or problem or something, I encourage them to send me an email for the simple reason that better spells out what their questions are, what their problems are, because I can take notes, but usually I can't read my own writing afterwards. So that kind of gives me a basis to go with their facts and their ideas to the mayor to see what can be done or what needs to be done in reference to that. And for those out there in TV land, all of our email addresses are online at the city's website, so you can send us things like that. Secondly, at the end of last meetings, during council comments, Mr. Meyer said he favored finding affordable proposals from the document that we received from the Planning Commission, and a way to get them done. I mentioned this when they presented it, and I'm mentioning it now. I really do feel like there's just a gold mine of stuff in here that needs to get done. But as we all know, and you've heard me say earlier when we were talking about the hospital, that I think we need to have a prioritized list and then start with that first priority and then go to the second one and on down the line. So I am challenging my fellow council members at the table to look at this list and to come up with their top 5, ranking them from most important to fifth important, but just the top 5, and bringing those to our next council meeting. I'll be glad to put that on a spreadsheet so we can kind of see, with that spelled out, what's the most important to this council to attack, so we can get that number 1 thing done and work towards those ends. So I'd appreciate it if the council members would bring their top 5 to the meeting the next time. And I don't know if our local newspapers have this document or not, but if they don't, I wish they would, because I understand this document is not online anywhere. So I'm hoping the newspapers would have it available, maybe put it on their websites, where the folks at home could see the great job that the Planning Commission did in spelling out all these needs that our community does have or will have, and so they can understand what we're working with and how we're going to try to prioritize and get these things accomplished. And lastly, and they came up during the hospital presentation, that I know that this community, being as small as it is, it sure would be nice if everybody and their uncle got the COVID vaccinations. I know I've had both of mine, and if I'm violating HIPAA regulations by telling my own medical records, I apologize for that. But I think as members of this community, we can be good examples to our fellow citizens to not only encourage them to get the vaccinations, but also to be a good example so they can get those. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Couple of items. Mr. McClung talked about the gas lines. I wish we were almost done. This is the second year of the second phase of a 3 to 4 year project. We're starting off, we did the first portion, which was extending the gas line from out toward Berryville in onto East Mountain and along East Mountain residences, as Mr. Meyer is probably aware of. The second phase was taking it on around the hill, and they're working around the old high school or the community center and around out on 62 West. The third section, which is going to be the most difficult, and we're going to need a lot of understanding from our citizens, will be going downtown. There's a lot of rock work that's going to have to be done. It's not going to be easy. They're not looking forward to it. And it's going to be a process. So, but I will go ahead and check and see on what Mr. McClung was talking about the repavement and stuff like that. The second item that I wanted everybody to be aware of too is recently, and I think I'd mentioned this when we had met out at Public Works about wanting to, we'd brought to the City Council 4 or 5 years ago, maybe longer, about the new maintenance facility. And I sent out a request for qualifications for a construction manager several weeks ago, and we got a couple in, and I selected Nabholz as a construction manager to help us value engineer the new building for the Public Works down behind them. It's time they need a new building, as we all know. When you went out there, having to work in that type of a building, especially in, gosh, when we had the minus 17 degrees this winter for almost a week, was just almost impossible for them. But I think with Nabholz as our construction manager, they'll be able to value engineering this, and we'll be able to get the best value for the dollar. But also as a construction manager, they'll also be able to help us out with other projects as we need. They will be acting similar to an engineer or an architect. They will be putting the project out for bids with individuals. This is it's not new, but it's new for the city, being able to use a construction manager. Schools have been doing it for several years. So I think a lot of other cities have done this, and Nabholz is probably one of the largest contractors in the state of Arkansas, and I'm real excited that they've agreed to work with us and help us out. I think we're going to be real good. They are also working with Integrity in doing our lighting and solar energy systems across with Eureka and with all of our systems here. And they've already came in and worked with the auditorium, and eventually we'll also be seeing a new HVAC system coming into this building that will help us again with, in long terms, with our operating cost. Anything we can do to reduce our utility costs is going to help the citizens and us save money. And that's the whole point of working with Integrity in reducing and working with the solar energy so we can get down to more sustainability in Eureka Springs. And with that, that's all I have at this moment. So,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.